Welcome to another episode of Media City Radio, Legend in the Game, where we celebrate the creatives, visionaries, and pioneers shaping the culture. I'm your host, Felix Natal Jr., and today I'm sitting down with a true legend in the game. He's living proof that his past doesn't define your future. From the streets to the stage to inspiration, True Speaks Power has a wonderful path of transformation. Once caught up in a life of crime and chaos, True made the decision to turn his life around and become a writer, a speaker, certified life coach, and a co-founder of the Extended Black Family Movement and Liberation School. His message, that none of us are stuck, we have the power to reprogram our minds and realign with purpose. Whether it's speaking to the youth, correction facilities, classrooms at Howard University, or at the Media City Studio, or on his podcast, Raw Success, True brings realness, wisdom, and a call to action that hits home. Today on Media City Radio, we dive into the story of redemption, the mindset that fuels his mission, and the legacy he's building, one life change at a time. I appreciate you pulling up today, my brother.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, it's an honor and pleasure, my brother. Real talk. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course, man. I appreciate you. Definitely the first person to come to when we first opened up the Media City. When you had your first show.
Yes, Food for Thought Fridays.
Exactly, Food for Thought Fridays. And we sat down, we talked about what I was trying to do at the time. And now 360, you came, you spoke with the kids.
That's right.
I do appreciate you for pulling up for that as well.
Of course.
I know you left a powerful testimony with the kids.
Thank you.
And I know that's something you're passionate about. And I admire that about you, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, man, and to see your growth and evolution and the continuous innovation that you bring to what you do is really, really inspiring because like you said, I was here when you first opened the doors and thank you again for being my guest, not only once, but twice.
Yes.
So that's a huge support that I really appreciate, King.
And then the second time, I didn't even say it. The second time by far is the best interview I ever did. My family, my loved ones, my supporters all said the same thing, that you definitely got a lot of things out of me that most people normally couldn't. So, I appreciate the opportunity as well. So for those that are familiar with who True is, what moment in your life sparked the transformation from street life to community leader?
I would say on top of the hierarchy would be the birth of my daughter, Lanasia. She's an adult now. She's 26 years old. And I had her when I was 19 years old. It wasn't an overnight process, but it definitely made me wake up to the fact that I need to make some significant changes in my life. At the time, as I always say, that I didn't really love myself. I wasn't aware of that, but I was living a very destructive life where I didn't care if I died or not, or even if I was arrested and got locked up. It didn't really matter to me. But when I had her, it gave my life a whole new meaning. And inspired me to want to do not only positive things, but to think more positive and to become a better man for her. So my love for her is what really was the spark. But it wasn't the only thing. There was also the fact that I was studying and learning a lot. I joined something called a Nation of Gods and Earths, which taught me knowledge of self and taught me about history of my ancestors and how we should live. So it was a combination of things, but I would say what really, really sparked me to really take action was probably the birth of my daughter, Lanasia.
Yeah, children have that impact on us, bro.
Indeed.
My 12-year-old, FJ, I think you met him once before.
And I did.
I always tell him he changed my life. Like my older kids always say, who's this new guy? Because I think you're like past the mace. Mm-hmm. They look at me in that kind of light because they're like, you're a whole different person. You don't turn up, you don't have fun, you don't do all the things you once did, but it's a part of growing, maturing, and then having a good woman in your life makes you, want to do better.
Yeah. I personally believe, this is my personal belief, that life is about evolving.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Before we started recording, I told you the story. I was in the hood the other day and someone who I grew up with like, damn, True, you talk different. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's a compliment. I hope I don't still talk and act like I did when I was in my 20s, because that would be no signs of growth. And so I think that the purpose that we outswam billions of sperm is to be our best. And in order to be our best, we got to learn, we got to grow, we have to evolve.
Yeah, that's definitely 100% factual, brother. You said your past was filled with struggle and bad decisions. How far was it to rewrite your own story, and what kept you going?
I'll say what kept me going is having a purpose. So once I adopted the purpose, number one, just having my daughter, that's number one, as I mentioned, but then also being committed to uplifting the community. You know, that's what kept me going, because I think that one of the issues in our communities is the lack of masculine examples and leadership.
Most definitely, brother.
Indeed. And so I wanted to do something about that, to counteract that. And so I know that it first starts with me. Like, I got to be a better man. Because I am of the community. I am a byproduct of the community. So I would say those things. Also, I wanted to just elevate the legacy of my family. You know, I love my family, but I just think that I wanted to be the one to transform things and elevate things, and also show gratitude to my mother. My mother came here from a third world country, you know, Dominican Republic. She came here and struggled, and I put her through hell, you know, and so I just wanted to be something that she could be also, not wanted to be, I wanted to be someone that she could be proud of, and her struggles and her sacrifices would be worth it. So I just always keep that in mind. And also the fact that I truly believe that we are by nature supposed to be supreme beings. So supreme means highly developed. Being, that's a verb. That means it's an action. That means that we are supposed to be existing in a supreme way. So my main, I guess you could say, philosophy, for lack of a better word, is to be the best version of myself at all times. But I'm also compassionate and understand that my best is going to look different. You know, like last night, I didn't really rest well, right? So my performance today may look different than a night that I actually rested really well. But I'm going to still do my best, because I think that I've been blessed with life. You know, so much, like you mentioned, some of my past, we're talking about like shootouts. We're talking about situations that I could have been locked up for many years or dead. And so I think about that too. That's another thing that fuels me. It's like, I don't want my blessing of life to be a waste. Like I lived through all of that, and I'm still here. Let me do something with that. So I would say that those are the things that keep me going and fuel me from my past to where I am today.
That's amazing, brother. So you're the co-founder of the Extended Black Family Movement and Liberation School.
Yes.
What inspired those initiatives, and what do you aim to accomplish?
I co-founded Extended Black Family Movement. It's really community. So the Extended Black Family Movement was comprised of people from the community from different walks of life. So you had some people that represented the Sunni Muslim community, some people that represented the Nation of Islam, some people that represented the Nation of Gaza Earth, so 5%, some people that were Pan-Africans, some people a combination of all of them. And so the first thing that we wanted to do is to represent unity in the community. And then because, again, right, we mentioned the lack of masculine examples, but another things that communities that I come from, Patterson, you know, shout out to Miguel. I got this hoodie from him, by the way. There's a lack of unity. So we wanted to be an example of unity by combining these different walks of life and putting our minds together to empower the community. So that's what Extended Black Family was all about and what sparked it. And so, and then as far as Liberation School, I'll tell you a really short story. One day I was complaining about the school system and how the school system doesn't teach our youth certain things that I think they should learn. And one day a brother named Shaka from the new Black Panther Party of Self-Defense, he was like, well, start your own school. And so I was like, man, that's a good idea. You know what? I think I'm going to do that. And so I got together, me, a good brother named Omawali, my wife, and another brother named Bomani. And we came up with this idea to create a Saturday youth program where instead of complaining about what the school system is not doing, we would just bring that education, bring that curriculum to the youth ourselves. And it first started with our children. And then it started to grow and just expand into a whole movement, and we started to take field trips and whatnot. So that was just really a need that I saw, and I wanted to do something about it, because I think in life we should not be victims. We should be victors. We should be warriors, and we should not be begging nobody to do things that we can do for ourselves. And I feel like that's where we should focus. not on the things that we can't control, but what can we control? Okay, we can't control the school system. It is what it is. But we can start an after school program. We can start a weekend program. We could take the information ourselves and go wherever we want and teach our youth. So instead of complaining about things, let's do something about it. And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's the same reason why I created the youth program here as well, because these kids don't have those kind of resources and they don't get those kind of opportunities. And a lot of times they have these creative gifts, but they don't see anyone like themselves that actually could do something of that magnitude. So by coming here and seeing someone that brown or black descent, they see, oh, this guy's been able to bless to work with all these people, so why can't I do that as well? So, it's definitely by taking the initiative. And like you said about the school, I mean, the school system is horrible. I was talking about that with my chiropractor this morning, how I was mad that my son, unfortunately he's suspended for the rest of the year, but he's missing his financial literacy class. And they don't offer that in a lot of schools, especially in middle school. So that's the one thing, I'm like, those are the kind of classes, real estate and all those other things they should be teaching in school instead of a bunch of information we're not going to use when we're, in real life situations.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about what you said about the middle school piece, right? Because he's young. So he's learning financial literacy when he doesn't really need it yet. And I think that that's important because, for example, if we use fight as an analogy, right? The best thing to do is to have the skills before you get in the fight, not get beat up and then have to learn the skills. Now, either way, both work, right? Learning is better than nothing, but it would be more optimal and beneficial if we can have the skills before that. So exactly, like I was told, be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Yes.
So I think that that's a beautiful thing for sure. Yeah, and I want to salute you in terms of the art. Number one, I want to say, and I'm not just saying it because I'm very purposeful and strategic with my words. I think that what you have going on is a blessing to the community, bro. In many ways. Number one, because I'm from the community, and I'm like, the first thing I think of is like, man, I wish I had an outlet like this. Number one. Number two, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, he taught us that the arts is probably the most important aspect of the revolution. The arts and what stimulates the left part of our brain, for lack of a better word, and how people communicate through the arts. Because if you think about music and the message behind music, the message behind art, podcasting, videography, photography, like all of that is it's an expression of life. And so to teach that in a way that's fun and meaningful, I think it's just amazing, bro. So I truly hope that these children know what they have access to and that they're taking advantage of that, because if I was their age, I wish I had something like this.
I say that all the time, brother. I appreciate that, my brother. Thank you so much.
For sure.
So how important is it for people who made it through the fire to come back and build platforms for themselves?
I think it's important because in addition to the purpose of us being the best version of ourselves and evolving, I think that it's imperative to us to always give back or pay it forward. If you study indigenous tribes and indigenous men, we were always in the role of mentorship. So I think that it's important to create platforms and situations where the youth can come up and learn after us so that they can take it to the next level. So again, it goes back to that purpose piece of evolving and growing. So I think that is the most meaningful way to use our platforms. I always tell my children this: it's okay to make mistakes. That's a part of life. That's how you grow. But please don't make the same ones that I made, because that would be the definition of stupid. There's actually a quote. I forgot how it goes. Oh, it says, a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others. So I think that having platforms like this where we could pour into others and pull up the next person, I think is important, because that's how we evolve as a people, as humans, as a community, and everything else.
That's the thing that I tell my children. I said, look, if I already have all the answers to the tests, why wouldn't you listen? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you want to go down the same path or make the same mistakes that I made? Then I wouldn't be doing my job as a parent.
Right.
You know what I mean? So please take my experiences at face value and don't go down and make those same mistakes.
And that's the difference between being stupid, and I hope nobody takes that the wrong way, versus being ignorant. Being stupid is like you know better and you don't do better. Being ignorant is you don't know any better, right? Or I may have that backwards, right? Or maybe ignoring the fact. But my whole point is that if you know better, you should do better.
You've spoken at youth correction facilities,
Yes.
schools, community programs, and the media city. What's the biggest misconception about our young people?
I would say the biggest misconception is, and this is probably more geared towards the demographic that I serve, is that they're stupid and or that they're all criminals instead of a byproduct of a circumstance and experience. And I think that we have to be careful, even I have to be careful of that with like my children and people in my life, of putting people in a box that's very limiting. And so I think that it's imperative for us to see the greatness in the children, and not in a fake way, but seeing their potential. And I think that the mainstream media has a tendency to just shed negative light on the youth. You know, it's not that they're not stupid. It's not that they're all criminals. It's not that they're all naturally bad. A lot of them come from rough circumstances. And I can see how someone may see that that's an excuse. But the truth is our circumstances does influence how we think and how we behave. And I think that should be common knowledge. And I think that it is common knowledge. But for some reason, when it comes to us, people tend not to be as graceful with that perspective. You know, and again, right? But once you know better, you should do better. So no passes and no excuses and no victimhood. But our people that came up in the struggle in places, you know, like Patterson and Newark, Jersey City and Camden, Philly, you know, they have it hard, they have it rough. And so we need to do our best to be successful so that we can, I don't like to use the word make it out, because I feel like I understand, and I did move out for multiple reasons, but I think pouring back in so we can just elevate the place. Because if we all move out, then it just leaves a negative example in the community. And I think that it's important for us just to shed light and just lift everybody up.
I agree 100%, my brother. What's your one moment from your work with youth that hit you the hardest or remind you why you do this?
When I was speaking, and this young man started crying because of his situation at home with his father. And it made me tear up. You know, I hugged him. I think that was a very defining moment for me, because it just made me realize that, you know, these are humans, like for real, going through some things. And you just never know, because if you see him, you know, he's a nice, handsome young man, well-dressed, you know, and, you know, physique, all of that. But he's battling things at home. And he's you know, he was, I think he's late teens, early 20s, late teens. And so, and not having an outlet for that sadness and that rage and anger that he's experiencing. And he mentioned to me that, you know, like his father, you know, never gave him a hug like I gave him. And I'm a stranger, you know, so it's just like, wow. You know, it's also a reminder that besides words, you know, our people need love, you know. Yeah. So and presence. So I would say that was one of the many defining moments.
They always say if you reach one kid, you already did well. But I feel like between the two of us, we could touch way more than one kid's life. So, you know, that's the whole purpose.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's what we're supposed to do, give back and help inspire these kids and show them that anything is possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for that reminder. I have to remind myself for that. You know, sometimes I get caught up with things like
numbers, you know, even me, because again, like me with my background. So I'm like, bro, if I could reach millions of people through my photographs, then why can't I reach millions of kids? And people are like, bro, like, you got to give yourself more credit than you have. Like, in the time frame you've been here, you already helped hundreds of kids. That's more than a lot of people have done. Yeah. So stop being so hard on yourself. Same thing, bro, is that you're doing amazing things. I see all the work you put in. So, you know, acknowledge that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you know, I'll tell you this, because I used to be one of those children in the audience. You never know how subconsciously you affect somebody. It may not hit them until 5 years later, too. That's another thing. Because I found myself reflecting and thinking about and even talking about people that I heard or people that came into my life. and really like, wow. It's just like, wow, like what that person said or what they did, I'm just now grasping the impact of that. So I think we just have to continue to do the work. But sometimes I do get caught up with the numbers, the views, and whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's understandable, bro. The day and age we're in, you know what I'm saying? That's unfortunate, you know.
Right. And Paul and self, also too, like it seems like on a mainstream level, and I don't even know why I'm even thinking why I should be validated by the mainstream, but it seems like they don't even acknowledge you unless you're coming with that. Mm-hmm. But I'm blessed because I have some people in my life that they have taken the time to inbox me, to text me, and to tell me to keep going, to tell me how a certain message that I said and how it impacted their life. And I'll tell them, I'm like, wow, like I really appreciate that because I struggle with self-doubt as well. You know, people, when they see me, I know I carry a presence of strength and power, and I am strong and I am powerful. But at the same time, I have my own battles of self-doubt, insecurities that I'm battling with. The difference maybe for me and the average person is that I just don't allow those things to stop me.
Can't be. I mean, we all vulnerable. It's just, you know, we just gotta remember it's just a moment. It's just our emotions, our feelings. You know, we just gotta keep pushing through it no matter what.
Facts.
In my case, you know, I just, you know, read the word.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your podcast, Raw Success. What made you want to launch it, and what can people expect from it when they watch it?
What made me want to launch it is that I fell into a state of depression some years ago. And when I did some self-reflecting, I realized that at that time of my life, all I was really doing was just working, providing, you know, and I stopped being active in the community. I stopped doing the creative things, you know, back to your point about the platform and whatnot. I stopped doing creative things. I stopped writing. I stopped speaking. I stopped doing community work because I was in a financial bind. And so I was just working and I was making money, but I wasn't, you know, doing anything that served my soul, my spirit, anything that brought me fulfillment besides just my family. And so I had to be honest with myself. Like, I no longer have the time like I did when I formed Extended Black Family Movement. I no longer have the time when I was rolling with the new Black Panther Party for self-defense. No longer have the time like I did when I had the youth program. I just don't have that type of time anymore. So the podcast now is an outlet or an extension / branch to the root of the tree, which is to empower others. And I always say, of course, it starts with empowering myself. So that was the launch. That's what made me start thinking about the podcast. It was something I sat on for quite some time before I actually launched. And then eventually I just, you know, just get it. And I'm so grateful that I did, and I'm not going to stop.
What could people expect from it?
To learn how to be better, to learn the different aspects to succeed, and to get real life stories. I think sometimes people, including myself at one time, may get so caught up with the superstars, you know, and nothing wrong with that it almost becomes like something intangible or something that can't be reached. Like when you think about somebody, let's say like Jay-Z, right? You think about his stardom, his success. It's like, man, he's a billionaire, right? But there's ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And so I would say also, in addition to that, I feel like there's I know there's a lot of misleading going on in terms of success and what it means, and these fake gurus and, you know, person overnight, they're life coaches and this, that, and a third. And so I just wanted, again, to create something to combat some of the misleading information out there. Like, listen, for example, true success takes time. It takes sacrifice. It takes investment. It takes, you know, maybe not sleeping properly. Maybe it takes sacrificing a Saturday where you would party, you know, and now you're there writing, or you're there editing, or you're there, you know, learning how to work this camera, or whatever success means to you. You know, maybe learning how to tile properly because you want to, you know, open up a tile factory, or whatever success is to you. I just, you know, I think there's a misleading information, like it's an overnight, fast, quick thing. Yeah, or you pay for a course and you'll be successful in a week. You know, you'll be a millionaire in a month.
If that was the case, everybody be in that class.
Come on, fam. Exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't happen overnight, bro, and it is very misleading.
Yeah, yeah.
So what has been your favorite topic or guest so far on the show, and what episode would you tell someone to start with if they are not familiar with your show?
Man, I hesitate to answer this question because I don't want to make anybody feel bad, yo. So I want to say that I love all my guests. I learn from all of them, and I appreciate all of them because it's an investment that they bless me with coming to like yourself, you know, coming to the studio. Because, you know, as you know, we only do it in person. Coming to the studio, their time, their energy, pouring their wisdom. So I want to start off with leading with that. But I think my favorite out of all of them, if I can say that, I love all of them. But if I can choose one, it's probably with Alex Vivanco. Probably chopped up his last name. He's an ultra marathoner. Is that how you call it? Ultra runner. Yes. Ultra runner, and just and I think only it's only because of I see so much of myself in him. You know, that may sound selfish, but I think that's probably why it was one of my favorites. But also his authenticity and vulnerability. You know, he cried on the show. You know, he spoke about his infidelity and how that ended his marriage. And so for him to do that on a public view, you know, I was inspired by not only his words of wisdom, but his willing to keep it real and raw. And so I would say probably that one. And what was the second part of your question?
Where would we tell someone to start from if they're not familiar with your show? Like, which is the first episode you would tell them to watch?
Oh, okay. It would depend on the person. It would depend like on their age, their gender, what they're into. So it just would depends on that. Like, I'm a huge reader. I read over 400 books on personal development, psychology, culture. And so people ask me a lot of times because they know I'm a reader. Yo, True, I want to read. I want to get into reading. What book should I read? And I used to just offer anything, right, based on what I like. But I've learned that it would be more beneficial to really like get into the person's world and see where they are and what are they into and what are they striving to grow into, and then pull something from that perspective.
It's crazy. My grandmother, she was a reader. She actually read the whole library in Long Island. She passed away when she was 94, 95. And I always try to read. I won't front, but I just don't retain information well. So that's why a lot of times I do like audiobooks and things of that nature. So I'm actually impressed that, you know, you read all those books. Because again, I have a small library of books that I have read. And then they'll be like, okay, tell me about it. And I'll be like, I might just remember like a few things from it. Where I feel like, again, like we said, feel like I'm going to be judged because, like, we're in high school or something. Like, hey, you failed that report. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
more importantly, is just, you know, getting more information, challenge yourself, and try to read new things.
Yeah, I say, brother, like, you know, like I say, like I read 400 books, but I'm going to tell you what's more important is reading one book 400 times. That's really, you know, like, and there's a Bruce Lee quote where he said, I don't fear the man that knows 1,000 kicks. I fear the man that practiced one kick 1,000 times. So I think that that's a universal formula to success. So I say that, don't get caught up with the numbers. Me, I just truly love reading. The other thing, I think the most important thing is that we're learning. However, like I know people that are like amazingly successful and they don't read. So, you know, I know people that are amazing. Like, for example, there's a saying, leaders are readers. I know amazing leaders, bro, that if they read one book, you know what I'm saying, that's a lot. So I do think that, I personally think that we should read, but I don't think you have to be a reader necessarily to be successful or anything of that nature. But that's just the medium that I use to learn. And I love audiobooks, especially these days. I'm so busy.
Yeah, me too. You speak often about mindset and aligning with purpose. What does that process look like for someone who's starting from rock bottom?
That's a great question, my brother. For somebody new at this, you definitely a great journalist, by the way. So for somebody that's at rock bottom, man, again, it's one of those things where I don't think it's like a blanket answer. I would have to like see why are they at rock bottom and what is meaningful for them. So a universal, and I know that I may have said this a few times already, but I always say this, and this is answering your question. When somebody who's struggling to discover their purpose or even their existence of why they're living, I always tell them, I'm gonna give you a purpose that we can all apply, and that is just be the best version of yourself in this moment. And because when you do that, you'll be surprised how the path unfolds for you. You know what I mean? And you start to get more direction. Obviously, the best thing to do is to have the direction and have the aim and have the purpose, right? So you can activate on that. But if you can just be the best version of yourself in this moment, and when you're at rock bottom, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's like you're addicted to alcohol. I don't know if you're addicted to drugs, or maybe it's a financial thing, or maybe you're going through something in your marriage, or maybe your health is in jeopardy. I don't know what that rock bottom means for that person. So in each situation, the details are a little different. But when it comes to the mindset piece, it's just saying like, okay, don't allow these circumstances, number one, to define you. And as you know about my book, you're not stuck, because you can do something about it. And so I think as men, but women too, but I think as men in particular, I believe that we should be warriors. And warriors are fighters. They're fighters for a good cause. That's the difference between a soldier and a warrior. A soldier takes order. A warrior fights for more so for a cause. Not saying a soldier doesn't have a cause, but a warrior is just innate in them to fight. And so I would say just fight for what's right for you. Be the best version of yourself. And what aligning yourself with a greater purpose does is, in those moments when you don't feel like it, in those moments when your state of being is just not positive, you can attach yourself to that purpose. More so, that's why I don't like to call myself a motivational speaker. I call myself an empowerment speaker, because motivation is great, but it's just not long lasting. Like, I love what I do as a writer and a podcaster, but the truth is I don't always feel like doing it. And so I'm not always motivated to do it. So in those situations, I have to remind myself, number one, of my word, my commitment, and two, the purpose. My purpose, or the purpose of those outlets, are so strong that even if I don't feel like doing it, I'm going to do it. Even if nobody's watching, I'm going to watch it. So the mindset and the alignment piece is just, you're not stuck. Are you doing your best? Most likely not. That's why you're at the rock bottom, because we are not meant to be at the rock bottom. So, and it's okay. No judgment. You got here. And the other thing I would say is extract the lessons. I believe that the challenging times provide great data for us, data that we can learn from to be better. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And no judgment, but just like data, just like, okay, all right, well, I've been eating like crazy for most of my life. I need to shift that. Or, I've been partying and I haven't been taking, work serious. And because of that, my financials in shambles. Or maybe I didn't manage or it can even be something outside of your control. Once, I'm in my mid 40s. Once you live long enough, you just know that things just happen. Like that's just a part of life. So now with that, back to what you said earlier, was I prepared for this? Did I not prepare for this moment? I was telling your engineer, my videographer is leaving the podcast, right? And I was like, okay, cool. He's doing it, for what he needs to do. But I was like, wow, the data I got from that is I didn't prepare myself for this moment. I didn't prepare myself. I should have been learning behind the scenes while he was setting up and editing. I should have been over his shoulder, paying attention, learning. So, saving a little money for now, because he has equipment invested, right? He's going to take that with him, obviously. So I should have been learning and stacking and preparing myself just in case. And I'm old enough and I've been through enough in life to know things like this happen. So I'm mad at myself for that. But I tell you one thing, I got it now. I got the lesson now.
What daily habits or mental practices that helps you stay in alignment?
I surround myself around personal development material constantly. I'm talking about the music I listen to, I read, I watch things. That's number one. Number two, I have a family, and I remind myself of my purpose in my family when it comes to my children specifically, because I know that I have to lead by example. So they are a reminder every day. The other thing I would say is I am surrounded by amazing people in my life. You know, I'm just truly blessed in that regard, bro. Like I got amazing people that hold me accountable, that keep it real with me when I'm not in alignment, when I'm being hypocritical, when I'm not standing for my brand, when I'm down and I just need somebody to talk to. So I would say that those things. The other thing is that I adopted a philosophy, like I extract certain things. I'm not a religious person. I respect it all. I respect whatever makes you a better person. But for me, I've adopted philosophy from studying different things like Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and other things. And so I have a philosophy that I live by, in my mind. And I just remind myself of that. Like, for example, I truly believe that everything happens in my life is for my benefit. That's just a philosophy that I practice. And so when I find myself down, when something negative happens in my life, I latch on to that philosophy, to get back in alignment. Like, okay, listen, this is uncomfortable. I don't like it. I wish it wasn't happening. But playing a victim or whining or complaining, I'll give myself a little bit of time of that. I'm an extrovert, so I got to get my thoughts and feelings out, whether I'm crying, whether I'm talking about it, whether I'm working out. That's another thing that I do too. So just adopting a supreme philosophy that works with me. I'm not saying it's the supreme philosophy. I'm saying it works with me. The other thing that I just mentioned is the fitness piece, and that's important because it gives me an outlet to release some of this aggression and some of negative energy. And the byproduct of it is that, physically that it's beneficial for you. But I would say, I also meditate. I meditate multiple times a day, and it looks different. Sometimes I'm in a lotus pose. Sometimes I'm listening to meditative music. Sometimes I'm just going for a walk with my phone on airplane mode so I don't get bothered. Sometimes I'm just driving, no music, not talking to nobody, just in my thoughts, processing, or just enjoying the ride. So I would say that those are the things that off the top of my head that keep me aligned. These are great questions, Felix.
Yo, you would say also Sundays at 11 o'clock help too?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. Shout out to my Gary Mountain crew. I often say to them that this is therapeutic because I work out during the week. So, Sunday's technically supposed to be a day off for me, so I can heal and recover and grow. But just being around them is therapeutic. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for reminding me of that. Shout out to Samir. He's the one that actually started the Gary Mountain group.
Yeah, I would be there too with you guys, but Sunday is my church day.
I respect that, bro. Yeah, man. You're building in a different way. Love that.
Do you ever still wrestle with parts of your past? And if so, how do you stay grounded in your mission today?
I definitely do wrestle with parts of my past. Therapy has helped. That's number one. Number two, studying people that have had a similar past and seeing how great they've become is the other thing. And I've embraced the fact that making errors in life are just a part of life. And I wouldn't be who I am without my past. As a matter of fact, with all humility, that's part of the reason why you invited me to be on this show. So something I used to be ashamed about and, used to be embarrassed about, I realized is actually my superpower. It's the reason why I get invited to speak at schools and whatnot, and taught me to be the person that I am. Those lessons, those hardcore, tough street lessons is the reason why I am and why I can relate to the children. The children know who's real and who's fake, who lived it and who really didn't. You know what I mean? They know that. So in hindsight, it's like, wow, my past was a perfect recipe for me to do the work that I'm doing, if you really think about it. And so I would say those things, man. And just one of the most important principles that I learned from Buddhism is compassion. And so just being compassionate with myself. I made those choices at the time, and Now I could look back and say I thought they were better, but at the time I must have thought they were the best thing, even though they were negative.
What's the hardest truth you had to accept in your personal growth journey?
That it's all my fault and it's all my responsibility. All of it. All of it. Even something as like, and I'll use this because it's just super obvious, but even like growing up in a low income household, I didn't ask to be here. I didn't ask my parents to break up. I didn't ask, my mother, who's a great woman, to work at a factory. None of that was technically my fault, but it's my fault because it's my responsibility to now take that and do something with it. I always say that I think the most important quality of a man is to be an alchemist. And if you know what alchemy is turning something of a lesser quality metal and turning it to something into a higher quality metal. So I think that one of the best attributes that a man could have is to converting a messed up situation into a great situation. And so it's all my fault. That was the hardest truth, bro. All my fault. I could sit here and give you a great blame story. I could definitely tell you. I could definitely shift the whole conversation to blaming people, blaming things, and all of that. But nah, it's all me. Let's get it.
When people say your name years from now, what do you want them to associate it with?
He was someone that truly showed love. And when they come into my space, and that space could be whether it's my social media space, my physical space, my writings, my audio words, whatever space, that they are better because of that. Remember I told you I live by certain philosophies. So another philosophy of mine is that I want everybody who I come across to be at the very least the same, but the goal is to be better, but never worse. And I'm not perfect.
None of us are, brother.
You feel me?
None of us are.
I want everybody, like this the engineer who's next to us. I just met him today. Willfully, it is my sincere intention that if I don't ever see him again, that this short interaction with me left him better in some type of way. So that's like something that I live by and would like to be remembered for.
So what's next for you, my brother? New books, programs, events?
Yeah, all of that, of the above. I definitely have a few books in my head now. Like literally, if you gave me the time and gave me a laptop, I could write 3 books for you right now. One that I'm definitely going to start soon because I've been thinking about it. But I've been struggling with that because I feel like I haven't pushed the power of choice enough yet. But I actually just told somebody a few days ago, it's interesting you're asking that question, that because I believe that we get these thoughts and feelings and desires for a reason. So the fact that like this book, and I just don't want to say the title until it comes out yet, so forgive me for that, but this book that keeps pushing, I said at the very least, let me just write it out. Because I feel like I'm carrying it, like, you know what I mean? And it's just waiting to like come out and just finish the manuscript. And my idea is to give it to my children, right? To give it to my oldest, Lanesia, and only because she's the oldest. That's why. So because the truth is, my brother, another hard truth is that none of us are promised tomorrow.
Facts.
And I think it was Les Brown that spoke about the richest place on a planet is a cemetery, right? Because that's where everybody died with all of the ideas and the dreams and the goals and whatnot. So I'm like, man, I got 3 books in my head. Why am I acting like tomorrow's promised? Like, even if, okay, I feel like I need to push the power of choice, cool. But let me just get it done and just give it to somebody. So like, yo, listen, if something ever happens to me, you got the manuscript. So that's that as far as the book. The speaking and definitely more of that. I would like to also turn that more into a business. And that's my fault, again, because I just want to help so much and empower so much that the truth is I do it for free, and I would do it for free. But the science is, bro, that I'm failing myself and I'm failing others because I work. So like yesterday, for example, I worked probably 13, 14 hours. And as much as I love what I do at my job, That's not my purpose in life. So I need to turn what I do into a successful, profitable business so I could do what I was destined to do and get paid great at it so I can do more of it. So that's that. And as far as the podcast, there's going to be some changes, and I don't know and how it's going to happen. But one thing is for sure, because as you know, because you were a guest, one of the biggest mistakes I did, bro, was stop Food for Thought Fridays, because Food for Thought Fridays existed before it became such a cluttered space. And so not only that, but I just learned like, wow, I really love this. I had to go through that to learn how much I love it, if that makes any sense. And so just going to continue to grow the podcast, continue podcasting, willfully continue to get opportunities like this where I get to sit down with great brothers, inspiring brothers like yourself. I truly mean that, brother. You're a legend.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, for real. And so I'm just grateful that when I got the invitation, like, wow, word, I get to sit with a legend for sure. And so continue to grow the podcast and do the work, and willfully impact people in a positive way.
Bro, I'm guilty of the same thing, bro. I do the youth stuff, out of the kindness in my heart. We're still trying to, raise funds. We got the 503c now, so my birthday's in a few weeks, so that's what I'm going to ask for a birthday gift from everyone, is just to donate, for the youth program so we keep it going. Because, again, every time we do this out of the kindness of our heart. So trust me, I'm guilty of the same thing. So what advice would you give to someone listening right now who feels like it's too late for them to turn their life around?
Yeah, wow. That's a great question. I've never been asked that question.
It means I did my job.
Yeah, no, this is great, especially considering like when it comes to the journalism stuff, like this is new to you. Like I know when the photography stuff, you a black belt.
Yeah. I'm trying to do this, put that same energy and become a black belt in this too.
Fire. I can see it, my brother, and it definitely is showing. I would say if you're alive, that it's not too late, and I would tell them to study autobiographies and biographies of people, because of real people, so you can see real life examples of people that made shifts in life. Like for example, my therapist now, he's a therapist, right? But 30 years ago, he was a probation officer, right? And he's already like older, right? He's like an older man, which is why I chose him. And like people make shifts in their lives, so you can do it too. And if something else I would say, like if you're having that thought and a desire, that means that now is actually the time. If you didn't have that thought or desire 10 years ago, as strong as you do now, that means that now is the time. And the other thing is too, and I am guilty of feeling like I'm in a race with time, I'm a 45-year-old man podcasting, still striving to figure certain things out. And I just felt or thought that maybe I would be in a different space right now. But, I would say that it's all part of the journey, so whenever you get it, you got it, and just start now though. Like now is the time.
Great advice, brother. Great advice. Shoot, I'm turning 50, bro, and I feel similar to you, bro.
Let's get it,
like,
bro.
You're just starting to do this now, and you could have been doing this when you had all these other celebrity clients and stuff, but I feel like it's more my purpose now because it's about the kids, not the celebrities,
Indeed.
So how could people find you online, social media, and how could they support you or get involved with what you're doing?
Oh, thank you so much. Number one, as far as online, so my Instagram is True Speaks Power. That's TRUE Speaks Power. That's my personal. And then the podcast is Raw Success. So that's how you can find me online. As far as to support and invest, I would say, number one, I have my book, The Power of Choice by True Kepra. There's a couple Power of Choice books out there. So you may have to also just put by True Kepra, TRUEKHEPRA. And I would say tap in with the YouTube. My podcast is on YouTube. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify, video and audio. So tap in with me. I would say, give me a chance. Give me a chance. I'm not begging for you to follow me. I'm not begging for you to spend money with me. I'm not begging for you to support me. What I am asking for is that you allow me the opportunity to bring value to you in some type of way. So if you can, check it out, see what I got going on. And I think that you would not only gain value for yourself, but for the people in your life. So yeah, give me an opportunity. Let's get it.
All right, my brother, I appreciate you pulling up today. Thank you for your time. Much love. God bless.
Much love. God bless, my brother. Appreciate you.